us to the live stream. There we are. Clear Vision Wednesday, YouTube. So happy to have you guys here. Today's topic is why eye exercises don't work. I am Claudia Mühlenweg. I am a Bates Method teacher, and I'm the founder and creator of the Naturally Clear Vision Method. So today this topic is a little provocative, the title, but because majority of people think, first of all, majority of people haven't heard about vision improvement, but if they did, or they're like, oh, is it eye exercises, right? So this is like the most common thing. And in fact, I actually tested a quiz because I want to create a quiz. And the quiz question that worked best, that tested best, was what eye exercises get you to 20/20 vision? So I understand this is what people search for, but I want to enlighten you today why this is a faulty concept. First of all, the idea of exercise is based on that belief that our muscles are too weak. And with eye muscles, I only have this little model here, and this poor guy has his muscles chopped off, but they kind of run all the way to the back of the head. So that concept is based on our eye muscles are too weak, we have to strengthen them, just like other muscles in the body. And here's the thing, in most cases of vision problems, your eye muscles are too strong, they're too tense. And if you are myopic, your eyeball is elongated. So like the superior and inferior obliques, they're squeezing really hard to make that eyeball elongated. And if you're farsighted, the four recti muscles, it's always hard to demonstrate, but basically they make the eyeball too short. So there's too much tension. And with astigmatism, there's an uneven tension. So when we think of eye exercises, most people think of like, oh, I'm rolling the eyes in a circle one way and then the other way, or I do this in and out. A lot of these things come from yoga. And I used to be a yoga teacher until the pandemic hit. So I have a background in yoga. I've never taught yoga for the eyes, but here's the thing with yoga or yoga for the eyes. Yoga is never just a physical practice, ever. So the asana, the poses in traditional yoga are one of the 8 limbs of yoga, right, of the branches. And when we teach yoga for the eyes, like candle gazing or any of these practices that I shared, that rolling of the eyes is one of them, it's always connected to your mind, to your inner sight, to your third eye. We talk about drishti. So it's, yoga is really about letting the light into you and also shining your light out. It's way different and now it has become this kind of exercise modality here in the West, right? We've kind of look at yoga as this exercise thing, but it's not. But this talk is not about yoga or yoga for the eyes. I just wanted to say that some of these things there's a deeper reason why those practices are practiced, and not just because it's about strengthening your eye muscles. And same like yoga for the eyes, vision improvement, that's just eye exercises, does not work. That's what I'm trying to explain today. So if you start studying the Bates Method, for instance, right, or you've never heard of it, or you get into the Bates Method, you realize that it's the way of being. It's a way of seeing that is coming from a deep place of relaxation, from awareness, from attention, acceptance also where you are now, what you see, and perception. Because here's the thing, we don't see here. This is just the organ of where the light rays come in to the lens and the cornea and then onto the retina. And the retina is actually part of the brain, but we actually see in the brain. I always jokingly say the retina doesn't know a table from a chair. The retina doesn't know anything. The brain, your visual cortex in the back of your head, this is where you perceive things. And that's where you actually see. And Bates talked a lot about memory and imagination because he was an ophthalmologist and he understood what neuroscientists now study, that our perception is how we see the world. And our perception is influenced by memories, by experiences from all these years that we lived, and maybe even from the womb. And if you remember, I don't have a slide, but remember that discussion about the dress that was blue and black, and some people said it was white and gold, and there was fierce fights about this, like, you're right, no, I'm right. And here's the thing, your brain makes assumptions. Is this photo taken in daylight? Is this photo taken at night? And from all these assumptions that you make, from your experiences, again, from the past, from what you see now, from how you can see, your upbringing, all these things influence what your brain then thinks it's the objective thing that's there that you see. So I hope that makes sense. So basically, all of the stuff that we have experienced all the time influence how we see the world. in our brain and our body. In our brain, especially the visual input is stored in the visual cortex and other parts of the brain. But our bodies also store all these memories, and we store them as some kind of tension, as some kind of effort, any negative ones at least, not the positive ones. Anytime there was a struggle, there was a challenge or a trauma or what we call adverse childhood events, we store that as some form of tension. And when the brain has certain parts or areas in the mind that are tense, it triggers down to the body. And that's kind of a cycle of information between the body and the brain. So I don't want to get so much into anatomy, but basically tension can be, you might have had that, oh, my neck is kind of tight, or my eye muscles, my eyes feel strained. It can be minor, but it could also be so frozen that it's not even perceived anymore. Like you might have an area, like unless you shine a light on it or somebody touches it or massages it in your body, at least, let's talk about the body, you don't even realize how tight this area of your body is, how much tension you carry in there. And I always give this example. When I was going through my very challenging divorce 20 years ago, I had at a party at some point, and somebody was a massage therapist. She was like, "Hey, Claudia, I'm going to massage you a little bit." She touched my jaw, and my jaw was literally made out of concrete. I had no perception. I didn't know. I didn't feel anything bad, but it was so tight. Now that I'm aware of it, I can feel the slightest tension coming up, and I do something about it. So physical, emotional trauma, memories, experiences, all these things, right, kind of imprint our mind, our thinking, our perception, and also our body, our physical tension in the body. And our brain's top priority is to keep us safe at all costs. So feeling safe is the top priority of our whole system, right? We want to feel good and we want to feel safe. And so it's often easier to bury, all this stuff under the rug. So I was trying to find a metaphor for eyes, but you know that idea. You just kind of like, I don't want to, or we say these things, I don't want to see it. I literally don't want to see it. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to see it. Nope. So the message here is that, yes, some of the things that we teach in the Bates method could be called eye exercises. Bates never ever used the word eye exercises. I prefer to call it vision practices, relax exercises, but basically these practices like sunning, palming, swinging, all the things we're doing are basically helping to unblock this tension in the eyes, in the physical eyes, and in the way we perceive things. So they have to be done mindfully. Like if you don't do this, if you do this as exercise, to me is something that can be done and your mind is somewhere else. And that's why I always say eyes are not abs, your ab muscles here, because you can do your whatever planks or crunches or whatever you do to strengthen your abs while you're thinking of something else. And you can hate doing them and you would still get more tone, more or stronger abs. You would still see a positive result from doing these practices. But with vision improvement, you have to do this mindfully. You have to pay attention as you're doing shifting or swinging or whatever practice you're doing to notice, what am I noticing? Am I noticing this? Am I noticing that? Well, how's my peripheral vision? You have to be constantly kind of checking in with yourself. We do a lot of practices with eyes closed, because how is your feeling with eyes closed of that practice? Is your memory of it, is there a good memory? Is there, for instance, if we do movement practices, is the movement more or less or the same? And if it is more, then that's a sign that you're straining when your eyes are open. So we're doing these very, very mindfully. And the awareness of these strains or these blocks that you have as you do the practices is absolutely key to overcoming them. Not like more force or like, Aldous Huxley wrote a wonderful book in the 1940s called The Art of Seeing. He worked with a teacher called Margaret Corbett, who was a student of Dr. Bates. And he called it drills, right? But that was also the language. Like drills remind me personally of the military. Like I don't want to think of drills as these practices. And I have some clients. Actually, I have one particular one. He's amazing, but he always calls them drills too. And he's like, "How many swings should I do?" And let's say I say 100. It's like, "Okay, I do 100. Okay, tell me exactly how often." I give him the exact protocol, and then he comes back, and I'm like, "I did the 100 swings every single day." I'm like, "Okay, great. How was your vision? How did your eyes feel afterwards? How was your vision more clear?" Or he's like, "Oh, I didn't pay attention to that." And that was like, yeah, you can, you know, and a lot of times I see people doing this swing like really fast. Like, it's not about how fast can you move your head back and forth. It's about scanning the environment, noticing what the oppositional movement, improving your little saccadic eye movements, but you have to do that mindfully. So I hope that makes sense. It's really the awareness and the attention is absolutely key to that vision success. So vision is a sense. Eyesight is a sense, just like, you know, touching, smelling, tasting, hearing. It's a sense. It's not a muscle exercise. Yes, we have muscles that are involved in the process of, you know, moving our eyeballs, you know, into a certain position. So the muscles are involved, but it's not like when you just train those muscles. That's what happens when they do surgeries for strabismus. You know, let's say you have an eye. I had an eye going in, and sometimes it still does that. And let's say your eye goes in, let's say this eye is perfect, and then this eye does this. So now they're cutting the two outer eye muscles here, basically the medial and the lateral one. And then they're making this longer and they're tightening the outer one here so that the eye looks straight. Now, what happens if you don't do vision therapy, or if you don't learn how to actually use your eyes together? Boom, the eye is doing this again, because the brain is like, I don't want to do this. Like, this does not feel safe. I go back here because this feels a whole lot better. So that's why these surgeries, purely cosmetic, they don't work. And unless you actually do vision therapy or vision improvement with the Bates method or other modalities, and you actually train your brain to use your eyes as a pair, and also like find out what was the reason the eye was going in, what caused that eye to go in, why did it not feel safe to look straight ahead? Like, there was always a reason. It's useless. You're spending a lot of money, your muscles. I have some clients that had 5 eye surgeries for strabismus, and there's so much scar tissue. So yeah, it doesn't mean you can't make changes, but it's the wrong approach. And Susan Berry wrote this wonderful book, Fixing My Gaze. And she said, and this is a little side note, she said in the book, why did the ophthalmology department not talk to the behavioral optometry department that are in the same building when I could have done vision therapy at age 3 and not did this whole journey in my 50s, which worked for her, but it took her a whole lot longer. So that's just a side note. So for myself, I'm just looking at my notes if there's anything else I wanted to say. But basically, the Bates method practices are mind practices that help your system to come back to ease and effortlessness, and to change your straining habits to those habits of ease and effortlessness, of naturally clear vision. People with perfect vision have these habits automatically, like blinking, like shifting their attention, like noticing opposite movement, all these things. If you work with somebody or you ask them, they're like, of course, like, why are you asking me this stupid question, right? Versus if you have vision problems, you might be like, why nothing is moving? What are you talking about? That was me in the beginning. I couldn't see any of this. So I don't do vision practices anymore. Yes, I sometimes rest my eyes when I feel tired, but I use my eyes well all day long, because I switched my bad habits that I wasn't even aware of through the practices to good habits, and using my eyes in the way the anatomy of the eye is the anatomy is designed. And I'm also using my brain, and I realize my brain is doing the seeing. And let's say I feel overwhelmed. I'm not, you know, one client asked me once, so you're always super relaxed? I'm like, no, I'm human. I'm not always relaxed. I get stressed out and overwhelmed and anxious like everybody else does. But what I do, or scatterbrain, that's also something, you know, where you have too many things going on. Distracted, unfocused, definitely struggling with that at times. But what I do is I acknowledge the situation. I'm like, okay, I'm distracted. I have too many balls in the air. Let's pick the most, like, let's calm down. And this is where meditation helps, or where some calming helps, or going into nature. Reset your system, maybe taking a few deep breaths, and you're like, okay. Because when you're stressed, you can't think clearly, you can't see clearly. So relax, and then prioritize, like, what is the most important piece? So we all have to do that at times. So I do those things, or I'm rolling on my little massage balls, right? If I feel a lot of tension, my neck was kind of tight. This is part of my method, my naturally clear vision method. We do these roll and relax practices, because tension in the body, right? You can't sit and meditate or relax when there's something really hurts, when your hip hurts or your back hurts or your neck is really stiff. And yoga, you know, the yoga asana, the yoga poses, coming back to yoga, were really designed to keep you, to create mobility, to create a pain-free body so that you can sit in meditation for hours and don't think the whole time, oh my God, how much longer, my hip hurts, my leg hurts. That's what the whole purpose of asana was, to really get you to this place where you can be quiet, where you can be still, where you can have total focus. So instead of doing a bunch of eye exercises where you can be, you know, that you do like just randomly, like do, how many swings, how many hours of, how many minutes of sunning, how many, like, you know, like a drill sergeant, think of focus on being a light receiver. Vision is receiving light information, right? Be focused on your goals in a relaxed way and use the vision practices as a way to unearth those strains to help release them. Really, that's what I want you. Be curious about your vision. Be non-attached to doing practices and don't seeing a result right away. Sometimes I had to do things for 6 months and I got frustrated. I did, but I was like, okay, I see myself getting frustrated. Let's relax and don't have the expectations. If I do this, you know, next tomorrow it's going to happen. Be non-attached and practice and really work on yourself and use these practices as a tool to reset how you do things, to reset your whole way of being. Because this is what everybody tells me that works with me, says, oh, I thought this was about eyesight, you know, eye exercises. And now I realize, wow, this changes my whole being, my whole outlook on life, my vision on my vision for my life. It changes how I interact with people because, right, how we see people, like it changes everything. So that's my final word here. I'm looking on YouTube. Thank you, Pete. I don't see any questions here, but basically maybe there's some questions after the live feed. But this is why, I mean, the title is a little provocative because yes, we do some practices that technically you could call exercises, but they all have a specific meaning and a specific purpose. And it's never about strengthening or toning any muscles. It's about how are you seeing, who are you being, and how aware are you of yourself and the world around you. So it's all about acceptance where you are now, attention. Without attention, we can't see anything. And also, now I forgot my third one, acceptance, attention, and awareness. Awareness of the things that are happening around you and inside you. All right, I hope this was helpful. And I see you next week for Clear Vision Wednesday with my guest, Nathan Oxenfeld. He's going to talk about colors, which is, we have some event coming up called Color Week that he is partly organizing. So I'm excited about that. And otherwise, see you then. Bye, YouTube.